Okay, well, Martin, thank you so much for joining me for half an hour to chat about your career, about rugby, maybe a bit of cars, a bit of motorsport.
Yeah, it's not a huge knowledge there.
So I've been asked to ask you whether you've robbed any banks recently, because apparently when you finished playing rugby, you were speaking to Austin Healy and you said you needed to replace the adrenaline.
Rob back. Well, I've got over that. It's sort of called getting a bit older. So no, but I wouldn't admit if I had, would I? But you know, the cash is dead. Cash is dead, isn't it? It's all electronic car now. We were that was the 90s.
Do you still miss that adrenaline?
No, I don't really. 'Cause I played. There's nothing replaces that and that era. But life moves on. People ask me that all the time, and they sort of, oh, I can't believe. But your life moves on. I've got kids, and you're in a different place, and I really enjoy what my life now and my kids and watching them do stuff. So it moves on, and I was very lucky. I played for a long time. I didn't miss a lot with injury. I didn't end with injury, a lot of guys' careers end when they're either their body gives up, or the coach somewhere decides that's it, you're not playing anymore at this level, and you either stop or go down. I didn't. I finished, when I wanted to finish, which was very fortunate to be able to do that. So I played till I was 35. Didn't miss a lot. Played, first class rugby when I was 19. So, I'd come to the end of my career. So when you retire, that's what you're doing. You sort of know what you're getting into.
Because was it an easy decision when the time came? Because with racing drivers, some of them, Jackie Stewart is very good. He just one day, right, enough, I've stopped. And other drivers sort of come back, try something else.
I think for those guys, there's different places they can be, isn't there, and different formats. And I don't know what stresses that puts on their skills. Different, I'm sure, maybe lesser. And with rugby, it's not just the playing; it's the training and the preparation to be there. And I never wanted to be on the training field thinking, "Why am I doing this? Let's just get this over with." So I always, when I trained, I did that. Hopefully, with the enthusiasm and the intensity that you've got to do it with, and that leads to the game. So I never wanted to just eke my way through a season and play. My last year, I'm quite proud. I missed one game for the club. I missed one game, and we got to the semi-final of Europe and the final of the Premiership. I missed one game and mainly played 80 minutes. If it was a tight game, I'd played. It wasn't coming off after an hour or coming off the bench or anything like that. I played. So I didn't want to be half-hearted at any point. So when you start thinking about it, actually,
that's the time.
This time, and you got to, that's the time to go. I look back sometimes, I think, I should have played another season for England, but that's just 10, 15 years later, looking back. At the time, it was the right call to make, and when I stopped my international career and then my club career, they were just the right calls. And I often, before and after, see people say, I'm going to talk to loads of. You don't have to talk to anyone about it because really, if you. No one else knows. I had some people gave me some advice, and that's all great, but that those things come from within you, and even your wife or your parents or whatever. It's your choice. It's your choice to make, and you've got to. If you're honest with yourself, when it's time.
Yeah. So you're at the Festival of Speed for the first time.
Here we are.
So on the cameras, you're literally not going to see that. We might as well be in a car park, but we will eventually be going up the hill. Surrounded by Porsches at the moment for their 70th anniversary.
Yeah.
What are your first impressions like of the event?
Yeah, it's everything you thought it would be. I had a neighbour who was used to work on racing Jags and a big car guy, and was always trying to get me down. And for whatever reason, never quite got here. So I've heard a lot about it. So yeah, when you're here, when we walk through I don't know if it's a paddock area or whatever it's called, it's just full of all sorts of cars. You don't know which way to look. My little boy's here, he's freaking out. NASCARs, old Le Mans cars, blah blah blah. I like older stuff generally in life. It takes me about 10 years to get into anything new. That's just the way I am. So I'm looking at the old. He loves the new stuff, and he likes a bit of the old stuff as well. But Yeah, incredible. The history of, I love history of anything, but the history of cars is pretty amazing.
Yeah. And so you're here with Jaguar Land Rover.
Yeah.
We're in I-Pace, very kind of. Oh, I think we're going to be
Interrupted.
Are we in the way? Yeah, well, we are.
Where are you trying to get to?
Well, we're going up with the course cars, top of the hill with Martin as a carpool.
Okay.
Yeah, Will Kinserman knows about it, and the guys at the start line.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go. Cheers.
So are you going back when we go up? You're going to go
Yeah,
on me.
and then I'll peel into the assembly area,
Okay.
and then I'll drop Martin off there, and then if I can make it before the F1 safety car, I'll
Okay.
come back down here. If not, I'll wait till the next match.
Okay. It got slightly confusing seeing you because I've got a cavalcade of various cars, and yours is exactly like one of the other ones we have here.
Right.
And I suddenly thought.
Yeah, sorry, very confusing.
No worries.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks so much. Cheers.
So I've got a sunroof at the back.
I have no idea. You probably know more about this than I do.
No, I don't. Has he got a sunroof at the back?
Gate at the back.
Well, it's probably got a full.
Yeah,
I don't know
it's
if it's
full
actually
glass.
open. Is it
Oh, no,
openable?
no.
Yeah. Anyway.
This is fully
Thanks so much.
functioning, isn't it?
Yeah. Cheers.
That's the ejector seat. I think got a gear lever for the ejector seat.
Yeah, so Jaguar Land, they very kindly lent us this I-Pace to cruise up the hill in. What's your involvement with Land Rover?
I'm an ambassador for Jaguar Land Rover, for Land Rover. So they obviously, they're quite heavily involved with rugby, so have been for a long time. So how long? Probably 10 years, best part of 10 years I've been an ambassador here. So do various things for them throughout the year. It's all good. Get to drive a nice Range Rover.
Oh, it could be worse.
Well, I often think that. It could be worse.
There are much worse manufacturers to be ambassadors.
Well, in that snow, particularly, well, any time, but in that snow we had, it was quite reassuring.
Yeah. So, obviously, big year next year, Rugby World Cup.
Yeah.
Is a New Zealand Ireland final a foregone conclusion?
No, there's never. I mean, any sport, there's never a foregone conclusion. That's why you play. Otherwise, we just put it in the computer, wouldn't we, and stay home. That's the beauty of sport. You've got to turn up and play, and you can be the best team. You say all the time, you can be the best team for 364 and a half days of the year. If you have a bad afternoon, you're out. So tournaments like that, World Cups, are all about pressure. We've just seen it with the football. Teams we thought were going to be there getting knocked out. And that's why we love it. It's a human thing, and sports science has its place, but the game is played by humans. It's not, and they're susceptible to all the things they've always been susceptible to: pressure and nerves, but also the good things. People get inspired. People get inspired at times, and they play their best. You can play a team. Oh, you beat them, but irrelevant. You beat them a year ago. Irrelevant. This is now the World Cup. They're going to play their absolute best. They're going to come at you. They're going to try and break you. You've got to break their will, their belief. You've got to beat them. And the great games are when you have two teams just go at it for the full 80 minutes. Sometimes you get into a game and it's tight for half an hour, 40 minutes, an hour, whatever, and you then get on top or they get on top, and everyone knows who's going to win. At that point, because one team's, whether they admit it or not, one team's probably gone. But the great games you have sometimes in World Cups are when both teams are just there, slugging at each other for the full 80. And 2 World Cups have been won by extra time drop goals, and I played in one of them. It was not over until he blows his whistle. Then you're going, is that the final whistle? Yes, sure, yes. And then even then, you want to wake up the next day and it to be real. Yeah. So there's no foregone conclusions in sport. Rugby has less probably upsets than say football does. But the last World Cup, Japan beat South Africa. What more do you need? Yeah. What more do you need?
I was going to talk about it a bit later, but that 2003 World Cup. What are your what are your overriding memories of it now that time has passed, 15 years later? When you think back to what do you think of?
We had a team. We had a fantastic team. We were capable. We knew we could beat all these individual teams. We had done, but you've still got to do it. And the adversity that happens. And you look back now and you think, what adversity? But at the time when you're in the tournament, you're in an unreal world of pressure, and everything gets blown out of all proportion because it's the World Cup. And so these things that happen seem huge at the time. Then they go, and the next thing happens, and you're battling your way through. So it was tough. It was tough, really, up until the last 2 weeks, and strangely enough, the easiest games to play were the semi-final and the final because, because early on there's so much pressure and the fear really of getting knocked out and losing early on, and what that means and what that would bring in terms of from the outside on a team is huge. I mean, the biggest pressurised game of that tournament was the pool game with South Africa, which people find strange, but the pressure on that team was massive, almost unbearable. If we'd lost that game, not won our group, probably played the All Blacks in a quarter final, it would have been very, very tough. So I think we got through that. We were 10, we conceded the first try in a lot of games, to Samoa, to Wales, to France, to Australia. So 4 games we were behind in, had to come back. But that team just got used to it. That's what we did, and actually by the end of it, we just realised, just win games. It doesn't matter what it looks like. We've seen it with the football. Oh, so-and-so aren't playing. France aren't playing well in the first game. It's irrelevant. They're in the final 6 weeks later. No, you didn't play well 6 weeks ago. No one cares. Yeah. Get there, and get it won in these things. And New Zealand in 2011 played one of the ugliest Test matches I've ever played to win the thing. But that's pressure. That's pressure on people, on teams, and the further you get, the tighter it can be. And the thing we had was actually we probably played more true to ourselves in the last 2 games and the biggest 2 games than we did at any other point. We just realised just go and do what we do, which is win games. We're not guaranteed anything, but we know if we play how we play, they're going to have to be pretty good to beat us. They're going to have to play for 80 minutes because we're very, very fit. We can play a number of ways, different conditions. We have that adaptability, and just go with it. No great plans, really. No great plans. And for the semi-final, we changed it after 10 minutes because it was pretty clear with the conditions how we wanted to play wasn't going to happen, and we could beat them in a different way. So the great thing with that team was it could play a number of ways, and it can win a game a number of different ways, which not a lot of teams can do. They play how they play, and they either win or lose. But that team could play on a dry day or a wet day and still be effective. So,
because I watched that amazing documentary, this kind of real insight into what you guys went through in the lead up to the World Cup and kind of all the different things that Clive would bring in and do. What were some of the maddest things that he
Clive would do anything to be successful, and that's Clive. He was a sort of mad professor type. We're going to do this. We had and a lot of it. By the time we got to the World Cup, a lot of it, the madder stuff had gone. We were very. It was a team that was very comfortable with itself. It knew this. We had very high standards we expected of each other, and took pride in those without probably realising that we did. And the guys as individuals knew how to get ready for games. So if you wanted to do something, fine. If you didn't, fine. But we trusted everyone to be ready to play, and that's ultimately your responsibility as a player. That I turn up, kick-offs at 3 o'clock on Saturday. Bang, when we get there, I'm not going to need anyone to motivate me particularly. I'm not going to need, I will be ready. I will be prepared mentally, physically ready to go and play. So yeah, over the years we had loads of stuff from Mossad and computer games, but it was good in a way because he was saying, look, I will do anything. I'll do anything to win. We'll find, and like all teams who are sort of striving to get there, you experiment with different ways of doing everything, from playing to training to preparing to travel to all the rest of it. And Clive would say, I will get the best. I will do the best. I will get the best of everything possible for you guys to be succeeding. And then you've got no excuses. And for us, that was it. You have no excuses. We've got the best preparation that you can have. This is all world class, and you need to be as well. So it was a good place to be. It was high performing teams, whatever you want to call them. They're never comfortable because if you don't perform, you're not going to be there, and that's what you need. You need that right level of motivation and a little bit of fear to say, actually, if I let these guys down, that's going to be the worst thing I could possibly do. So, but within that, everyone, all the guys there were comfortable with each other that these guys could perform. If we need someone to step in who's not a regular starter, he will do the job. And it takes a while, an engine revving over.
I'm pretty sure that's the Porsche Formula One car. So,
it takes a while to get there, but we got there with that team, and we found a way to win.
So back at school, I was coached by Roger Utley to very poor standards. That was my fault, not Roger's fault. But I remember him saying in his brawl was rugby is 90% mental and 10% physical. I think that is right, isn't it?
Well, look, I mean, you hear that all the time. People talking about sport. The brain controls the body, not the other way around. I mean, there's a World Cup final today. People, they'll be tired. No, you're not. Not if you don't. Not if you don't say you're tired. If you go, I'm full of energy today, you'll be fine. So, your attitude is. I played with guys. I played with two players who were not 6 foot tall, who were not particularly quick. Who between them have probably played the best part of 200 games for England and won 2 World Cups. How do they do that? Because they had the right attitude. Neil Back and Johnny Wilkinson were two of our key players. And if you saw them walking down the street, you wouldn't say, "Oh my God, those guys are physically, huge people or particularly quick." But they turn themselves into world-class rugby players. And most of the guys who play are somewhere on that spectrum. They just are determined. They really wanted to achieve and do what they do. They get over the hurdles that are there in front of them and go and play. And yes, some are more gifted than others, naturally, but that's the way it is, unfortunately. We don't all start in the same place in that point. But their skills are the mental skills as much as the physical skills. Because the mental skills give them the tenacity to practice the physical and to get better at it.
Yeah.
And so it's the same with a team, how you are mentally is massively, massively important. Where you need to be as an individual, how that works in a team, your confidence levels not being too high. I think when a team's too confident, it leads to a little bit of complacency subconsciously. I always thought we were better when we had an edge about us, a little bit of nervousness, played better against the better teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the same in any walk of life, I think.
Yeah, it's a knife-edge balance, isn't it? Because you're saying you need to have a bit of fear, you need to not be too overconfident, and it's obviously
and different for different people.
Yeah, and
some people love to have this confidence thing going on. Other people, I always played better when I had that edge of, Jesus, these guys are good. These guys, we've got to be on our best today, otherwise they'll embarrass us. That really brings out the best in you, I think.
Yeah, and just kind of coming back to the World Cup next year, I mentioned New Zealand, Ireland. Which other teams? I mean, I know obviously there's the top 10%. Any one of them could win the World Cup, but
the great thing with the World Cup is the teams that don't get a lot of time together normally in the world of rugby when they play, they get more time at the World Cup. Fijis and your Samoas and your Tongas and these sort of guys, they get Argentina maybe even, they get more time together to train. Teams like New Zealand and Australia and England to a degree, they're together a lot. They're weeks and weeks of the year, so they're smooth running machines supposedly. So the great thing with the World Cup is you get all the best players there. They get a little bit more time to prepare, and off they go. So you see some big performances from some teams that you sometimes don't expect it from. I think Australia always have the capability to win a game, any one-off game, with the talent they have. They've been a little bit more inconsistent over the last few years, but I think they'll always bring it to a World Cup. They got to the last final. South Africa as well. They have a huge amount of pride in being Springboks and playing for South Africa. So always be dangerous in a World Cup situation. Always be very, very dangerous. I think France have, slowly. I thought they were getting back to being France a little bit, but they've got good players. When they beat England this year, people were saying, "Oh, they're not this," and I said they've got big, strong individual players, and if they get together and bring a collective with that, they can be difficult to beat. If they can get it all pointing in the right direction, they can be difficult to beat. So that's why World Cups are great, because it we all want to have great preparation, and in 03 we won these games, and it was like a progression. England in 07 got to the World Cup final off the back of terrible form, so there's no set way of doing it. You can get to the tournament and find your thing 2 or 3 games in, and get there. It's all. I mean, France in 2011 didn't play great, and they should have won it. So it's each tournament's different. There's no set way. And again, that's why we love sport, isn't it? You can just who knew, sometimes what's going to happen.
Yeah. So what do you think of Eddie Jones's squad at the moment? Because it's it was looking really great. And they had a sort of a bit of a not a bad run.
Yeah, a bad run. Yeah,
matches.
Definitely a bad run. I think Eddie had a squad that had been. A lot of them had been to 2 World Cups. Some of them were there, and I always gave them their debuts. So he actually inherited quite an experienced group, and had their success. And I think as some of those guys have been injured and not played, the next generation is a generation we haven't seen enough of yet. So history does say you're probably best off having some experienced players at a World Cup. Have some of these guys got enough time to get in and get there? We shall see. I think it's a very interesting autumn now. Hopefully everyone's, the bane of being an England coach is having 10 players injured.
Yeah.
I remember one autumn we had 14 players injured. So you're putting a new team together to play the All Blacks. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
If you're going to have 2 or 3 players injured, but when you start getting into 8, 9, 10 of your best players injured, it's very, very tough. So hopefully we can get to the autumn with minimal injuries, get our best team on the field, and get some of these younger guys out there in a good team with some experienced players. That's always your best opportunity. If you're chucked out there a group of inexperienced players, very, very tough. If you're in with a group, a mixed group, some experienced guys in there, far easier for you, and see where we can go. Now, all is not lost. Even we're a year away, and it's a long time in sport. It doesn't seem it when you're out of it, but when you're in it,
There's a whole other Six Nations.
Yeah.
Through and
Autumn, Six Nations. So we shall see. I think, as I say, if he's got everyone fit, and then it's up to the players to play well. It's up to the players. If you want to play for England and be picked, get yourself in great shape and go and play well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you've got to do.
Are the players sort of since you retired that you sort of wished you played with in the England squad? Because there's been some amazing talent, and there is some amazing talent in that. I mean, you coached a lot of them.
Yeah, not really. I think you play with players, good and bad, and you probably remember. I think when I say to people all the time, "Oh, this guy's got talent," I say, "Yeah, fine. Do you want to sit in a changing room with him in Ellis Park, Johannesburg, or Eden Park, Auckland, or whatever the stadium calls in Sydney at the moment, Olympic Stadium in Sydney, 5 minutes before kick-off, and look over the thing and think, I'm happy to be playing with you?" That's the test.
Yeah.
Do I want to run out and have him? I've got his back, he's got all that sort of thing, because that's when you find out what guys are about, and what you said earlier about the mental side of it. For the sort of God-given talents are one thing. What a guy does when he's under that pressure in those situations is when you find out. So, I played with the guys I play with, and you have that. You sort of have a bond with those guys that you've been through those tight situations. We didn't win them all, and you lost, and we had some horrible losses and some great wins. But that's the deal. That's what you get into. I won a World Cup. I played in 2 others that we didn't win, and that was horrible. It was horrible getting beaten and getting knocked out. But so I mean these. So in terms of your question, well, no, not really, because I played with my my era, played with my guys. That was my generation. And the great thing with rugby, I say to people all the time, any guy I played with, there's not really any guys I ever played with. I wouldn't, if I saw them here today, and we'd have a chat, opportunity to have a beer or whatever, and talk, the usual crap that we talk. And it wouldn't be about the games. It wouldn't.
Yeah.
We wouldn't. Oh, I remember that game. We don't talk.
Yeah.
It's just just general, more about people and characters really, because that's what you remember as much as anything. Just the lunatics and the stupid things we all did.
There's just kind of like moving it sort of up to the present again.
Yeah.
The home and away advantage. There's always been a home advantage, but it seems to have become a lot more pronounced in recent years, when we've seen some big teams lose to maybe some quite small teams when they're at home.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because the game has changed a lot, which we can talk
Testosterone
about.
production. It is. That's what the scientists say. Yeah. When you're at home,
right? Obviously.
You're defending your home, so you generate more testosterone.
Really?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Well, it's in any sport, not just rugby, isn't it? I think at home you do, winning away is always tough. And those teams that you think, okay, we'll win at home, when you go away, they're always battles. So getting away wins in the Six Nations is always difficult. Whenever you go anywhere. I remember, I was up at Scotland this year for the England-Scotland game, and they were talking this, and I said, look, number one, first thing when you come up here, I was feeling nervous. If I go to Murrayfield, go to any of those grounds, I get these feelings of sort of I don't know how to describe them, dread almost, because it's going to be an absolute battle when you go up there. So first and foremost, you cannot lose the battle of intensity and want and desire, because if you do that, tactics are out the window and you'll lose. And England lost that, and they're 3 tries down.
I wasn't actually going to tell you, but I'm Scottish, born and brought up in Scotland, so it was obviously that was quite a big game for me.
Yeah, of course.
I'm just going to keep it quiet.
Yeah, no, we know that. I missed the 1990 game that England lost, and unfortunately missed the 2000 game. 10 years later, we lost again. And for Scotland fans, there's no in between, right? Because there's 1990 and 2000. The games in between,
existed.
no,
they never happened.
All the losses. But you know that you're going to get reminded about the games you lose and not about the ones you win.
Yeah.
And that's the deal. But you just make sure you don't lose them. And it was a classic. England came out. They probably thought they were ready for it, but you always think you're ready for it till you get out there and you go, oh, actually, yeah, it is like this. Yeah. And you've got to adapt pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And but that's you love that. You love going away to difficult places, Ireland, France, Wales. I mean, for England, everyone wants to beat you.
Yeah.
And trying to win.
And the game has changed so much. I mean, I've always been a fan of rugby, but if you watch a game from 1990 to present, it's almost a different game.
Yeah.
And even over the last 5 years, there's been a lot of changes.
And
is it? I mean, a lot of it is to do with the professionalism and fitness and all of that. Is it all for the better, or is it because there's so many sports? There's the problems with drugs and everything like that, and rugby's now getting to that stage where it is anything you can find to get an advantage, or is it not there yet?
I think the whole of sport's gone like that, hasn't it? If you look at rugby in 1970 or 1990, it's different. 1950 would have been different, as is motorsport, as is everything else. So it's a human condition, isn't it? We want to get better and further ourselves and be successful and keep winning. Otherwise, we'd still be battering each other over the head with dinosaur bones, wouldn't we? Ultimately, so the game is a far more structured game today than it ever was, and there's good and bad things with that. I still like to see. I like to see sometimes when the game breaks down and the structure goes and you have to play spontaneously, because there always was that when I played. You were a little bit more individual and you could make your own decisions. But what is effective, how to play, has moved, but it will move again. I mean, we're seeing it with football. We've seen Spain kick the ball on the floor and pass through people. Oh, we must play like that. You get to a World Cup and everyone's crossing the ball to a big guy, not sit in the back of the net, and it's unstoppable. Yeah. So the game goes round in circles, and it will again. Yeah. There's a lot of hype. Oh, the players are so huge. The biggest team I ever played in was 23 years ago, the England team. There's never been a bigger set of forwards than that. Yeah. I mean, in '95, the England forward pack, the back five, the average height was 6'6". I mean, enormous. Yeah, Ben Clark played open side flanker at 6'6". So, you know, you get these sort of things. Oh, this is what the guys now. They're all obviously in the gym. They lift. That all moves on an incredible amount. So that they're all more powerful athletes than possibly we were. Does that make you a better rugby player? No, not always. And does the more powerful guy always win? No, not always, because there's more to the game than just that. Otherwise, we'd have the power lifters would play. Yeah. So, you know, skill and being a good rugby player and all the things that were good in 1970 and 1950 and 1920 are still good today. Yeah. The physical, we were very. I don't think in terms of running fitness that you'd find a fitter team than we had in 2003. We had some incredible guys who could go. You know, they'd go all day and they played 80 minutes every week. A lot of guys now are off after 60 minutes because they can, because there's 8 subs and all the rest of it. So, yeah, things change. And as an older player, you don't want to sit there and go, "Oh, in my day," but. Things change, and that's the only thing that you know for sure will happen in everything in the world. So, like you say, there's positives and negatives and everything. Yeah,
I'm going to come to kind of how you got started and New Zealand in a bit, but just talk me through your kind of average day training and what you'd get up to, and before that World Cup in 2003, because it was pretty relentless, obviously.
It was okay, but that's all we had to do.
That's what a professional sportsman would say. It was okay. For me, I'd be on the floor after 5 minutes.
It was fine. Look, you know, rugby players, we train hard and blah, blah, blah. Gymnasts train for 8 hours a day. You know, some of these swimmers, they're training for hours and hours. The great thing with rugby is, I mean, the World Cup camp was great. I love pre-season training. I enjoyed it. Generally, because you've got most of the time as a rugby player, you're playing, you're competing, so your training is you're trying to just maintain some sort of body condition and not fall to bits. Pre-season is a time when you can really, really work hard. There's no game at the end of the week that you have to sort of taper down for and then recover from. So it's all about working hard. So we'd get up early, and I think we'd lift weights. I think probably first thing. So you'd probably have some sort of nutrition before you did that. I think then we'd eat again. There's a lot of eating involved as well, which was all right. And then we'd come and I think we'd train again in the morning, probably do a skill session. And then we'd go back and eat again. And in the afternoon we'd have a sort of a downtime where you were advised to go and sleep, which it was great. I love it. It was a really hot summer as well, so actually it was fun because you get 2 sessions in, you're full of.
Are you going up behind me?
Yeah.
Formula One paddock, I pull into there obviously. Yeah. So you might see me swing. Don't think I'm coming out again.
Right. Okay. The top paddock.
This Formula One paddock.
Right. Okay.
So what I do is I swing in like that, point out. I won't come out in front of you, don't worry. Just, I don't want you breaking and upsetting anybody.
Sorry.
Yeah, so you then advised to sleep, because the best recovery for your body is to sleep. And then we come again and train sort of late afternoon. So it's a perfect environment for a player when you're training with. The great thing with that time before the World Cup was, guys were setting such high standards of performance and training that it made you rethink where you were and inspired you to work even harder. So it was a great environment to be in, with the best guys training hard, pushing each other all the time, being competitive with each other in training, and it was a fantastic thing. You know, you're a pro athlete. That's what you do. You're away from your family. The only downside when you're pulling up kids, is you're away from. I had a newborn at that point. You're away from your family, but we knew it wasn't going to be forever. And I love that environment. I mean, some guys find it hard and whatever, but this hard work, and that's not it. Going to work every day, it's something that's mind-numbingly boring would be far harder than doing something you enjoy doing. Yeah, at times it's a bit tiring, but it was a great thing to be involved with.
Do you have any idea what you would have done if you hadn't ended up on the rugby pitch?
Well, I was an amateur player. I worked for HSBC. I worked for Midland Bank, which was great. They looked
Hence the robbing banks.
They looked. I wouldn't have rubbed that.
A bit of knowledge there.
So no, I don't know. I love being a professional because it gave us a chance to do it properly. Not you know, it is a cushy life in a way being a pro athlete. I mean, I was lucky I played for a successful team, so I didn't have, you know, the guys if there were teams that were struggling and they were losing, there was a lot more. It was probably a harder existence, a darker existence. But when you're winning, it also brings pressure. But you know, it's not the real world in a way. And the unfortunate thing for athletes, it comes to an end pretty quickly, and can come to an end abruptly. But you know, I struggle when pro athletes talk about sacrifice. I struggle with that. I say, mate, well, you're not sacrificing. You know, you're doing something that's pretty special. Yeah.
So, but oddly, I think, you know, there's obviously lots of people that do know this, but there's some that won't. You actually started off by playing for New Zealand.
Well,
when you were in the under-21 side.
Yeah, I went over to New Zealand. I played for England schoolboys. I played for England under-19s. I got invited just to go and play in New Zealand, which I did just to experience travel. And the great thing with rugby, you know, lots of sports is it can take you around the world. I got invited to go and play. Do you want to go to New Zealand? Yeah, why not? See a bit of the world. There was no great plan. There was no great, you know, structure to anything. And I played right in the middle of the North Island of New Zealand, which is a very rural area. It's called the King Country in rugby terms. And our chairman, one of the most famous All Black, unfortunately recently just died, Colin Meads, the most famous All Black really of all time, and personifies the All Blacks. You know, sheep farmer from the sort of rural heartland of New Zealand was our chairman. And he didn't have anyone to send to the under-21 trial, and he wanted to send someone from King Country, and he was very proud of his province. So he sent me, the fact that I was English. But I didn't get in the first year. I got in the second year. I stayed, and was probably the biggest shock in my rugby career to get picked in that team and play. But a massive learning experience, playing with some great players, great coach John Hart, and a very, very high level of rugby. Take it very seriously, very professionally. Huge.
What kind of impact did that have on your game? Because it's the rugby over there is more of a religion, I think, than it is perhaps in England, where there's so many other sports that kind of you know, hit the headlines and things. It must have been quite an experience.
Just to be exposed to it, England was just changing then. The game was still amateur, but England were becoming the top end was becoming a bit more serious, and with Jeff Cook and Will Carling as captain, they were the sort of the first sort of rugby revolution that led to them getting to the final in '91. But the game there was far more serious, and always had been taken far more seriously in every regard. So just to be exposed to it, just to be exposed to a little bit of it, to play as a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old out there at a pretty decent level, where maybe I wouldn't have had that opportunity in England at that age then to do that. So when I got home, age 20, I'd played 30-odd sort of top-class games, decent games of rugby, and you were a little bit ahead of the curve, really.
So, I mean, we are now finally about to go up the hill climb. So you can do it in 41.6 seconds if you're in a Formula One car and you're Nick Heidfeld, a professional driver.
Right.
Will be well over 2 minutes. But just kind of looking back at all those matches you played, club level, international.
Yeah.
Are there any that stick in your mind as kind of the hardest matches, or the toughest guys to play against?
It's strange, isn't it? I mean, one of the hardest Test matches I ever played was a '99 World Cup pool game against New Zealand. You know, that was a big match. We clawed back to level with about 15 minutes to go, and Jonah Lamy ran 60 yards to score the go-ahead. You know, it was a really tough game, far tougher than any game I remember being in '03. Yeah. So it's strange, isn't it? Some games, you know, you think, the World Cup final. The World Cup final was not in terms of physical, was not even in the top, 50, probably 25. Not even, because it's just a different type of game, but a different, difficult to win. Not saying it wasn't difficult to win, but it was a different game. So you never get an easy game against the All Blacks. I mean, not even a remotely comfortable minute really against those guys.
And when you've made your England debut, what was that like? Because there were some big names on the team.
Yeah.
Will Carling. Was it daunting playing with these guys?
Of course.
How do you handle that?
Well, you've just got to. I think unless you're very, very confident individual, you think, am I good enough? Am I going to? Very experienced team. I'm coming in for Wade Dooley, so everyone's looking at you thinking, we'd rather have the gnarled colossus that is Wade Dooley, apart from this skinny youth. But you've got to do your job, and you want to be accepted in that team, and for them to think, right, this kid can do his job. He can be part of this. So you want to be accepted, and you just want to do your job. And be good enough to be there. And then after you've played your first game, you think, okay, I understand what it's about a little bit now, and I've got to improve. I've got to get better at lots of things, but I think I can do this, and off you go.
Yeah. And how important was that '97 Lions tour? Where does that kind of factor in?
It was a fantastic experience. I think it was great for the Lions. They were talking about them being finished as a concept. I think when we got back, they talked about doing it more often. So it was a great tour. The rugby was fantastic. The camaraderie was great. It was all the things you hope a tour will be.
Yeah.
And very, very special. If I sort of say, if I could be anywhere in your rugby career, if you could say take me back, I'd say take me back there.
Really?
And it's a great country to tour as well.
Yeah. It's interesting. '97 Lions tour over 2003.
Less pressure. We weren't expected to do anything. We had a fantastic mix of players. A lot of young guys coming through in their first or second year, and a lot of old guys who come back, played rugby league. A few of them, who gave us a real professional edge in everything in terms of fitness and know-how and all the rest of it. So we beat a pretty decent Springbok team who were world champs. It was a just, but we did it.
We're getting a bit of.
Excuse me, you don't mind if you jump on the back just for a ride down?
We're just doing an interview at the moment.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
it's all right.
No worries.
Cheers. You can't sit anywhere here. You're going to get people jumping in. Just a kind of sort of, just finally before we go down and you can finally get a bit of peace and quiet, get some lunch. The Six Nations Championship, for me, is really one of the greatest championships in the world, not just rugby, but for all sports.
It's a great occasion.
What is it? The history, I suppose, is a big part.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's the occasion, because thousands of people travel to have a good time. It's not just we're going to watch the game and we're going to win or win, great, lose, terrible, go home. They go and have a fantastic time. They go to wherever you go, whatever the game, Scotland in Dublin, Wales in Paris, England in wherever. Thousands of fans go. They meet their mates. They might, they go with a group. They go with their rugby team, whatever it is. They'll have a great Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday even now, and love the whole weekend. And the rugby is an excuse for people to get together and just enjoy it. Yeah. And that shouldn't change. I was lucky enough to play at that level and do it all, and winning and losing meant everything. But when you get away from it, you go, it's a great. Rugby has more to it than just the playing of the game and the winning or the losing. There's far more to it than that. It's the friendship and the camaraderie and the occasion, and you love it. You go up there. If you win, it's great. If you lose, you still have a good time. It doesn't destroy your weekend. You still go and have a good fun. And these sort of this shouldn't change. The occasion at Cardiff is different to Twickenham, it's different to Dublin, it's different to Paris, it's different to Edinburgh, but they're all very, very special and great things to be at. The whole thing is a trip, isn't it? The journey, getting there, the Friday night. Can you make the Saturday? And now I don't like the Sunday games particularly, but. It's part of it now. And then Rome, we've got Rome as well. Forgot Rome. What a trip that is, What a place that is. What an occasion. So it's more to it than just the actual 80 minutes. The whole weekend. and the time of year it is, there's not a lot of other things happening. So it's, you know, New Year is for a lot of people, it's a bit of a bleak time of year for whatever reason. It actually, for a lot of people, it's the only thing that sort of livens up a harsh winter.
Yeah. Martin, thank you so much for spending
No problem.
our time. It's really, really kind of you. I hope you enjoy the rest of the Festival of Speed. And
we're
get
parked
stuck into
amongst
cars.
some decent Porsches of.
Yeah, we should probably get out and have a look if you want. I think
Yeah, we got a little time up here.
Well, 1 or 2 minutes because they're all getting back into the car. But let's go and have a look.